All right, everybody. So this is the meeting for professional development. So if anybody is unaware or kind of new to the meeting, we kind of are here to basically provide educational resources as well as guidance in connecting you with mentors as well as travel grants and workshops and demo camps. So there's a lot of stuff that we do get involved in. This is kind of open for everybody, and I would like to, since we may have more people than we normally would, have a kind of rundown of what people would like to see us doing, as well as provide any feedback for things that we could change. First up, I am going to have Elise LeCompte, who comes out of Florida, and she is actually in charge of our travel grants. So have her give an update as to what that looks like right now.
Okay, thanks, Nick. We got through the process, except up to the point of, actually, we never read the applications. I ran through them some before all the shutdowns, and I kept waiting to hear back from SPNHC about the meeting. They finally canceled. And the upshot was that we will put the applications aside, and they asked if they could take, the executive council asked if they could take $3,000 from the travel grant fund this year to run the virtual meeting. So I agreed to that. And that's it for this year.
All right, quick and simple. So you can always stay updated. If you have any questions about travel grants or anybody you know is looking for a travel grant for the meeting for next year, you can have them reach out to either me, Jeff, or Elise. Any of us are certainly available to get them in the right direction. Next up, I'm going to have Carrie jump in. She's going to talk about mentorship.
Hi, everyone. Last year at the meeting, Travis Marsico and I agreed to take on this new mentorship idea where we would try to offer mentorship opportunities to other SPNHC attendees, those that didn't necessarily get a travel grant. So this is something that's came up in emerging professionals a lot. The fact that when new people come to SPNHC, they're just overwhelmed. They don't know what to do, what not to do, and it would be so great if there was somebody who was assigned to them to say, hey, this is what you need to do at SPNHC. And kind of befriend them and make sure they're comfortable and guide them, do everything that the mentors do for the travel grant, just do it for any typical person. And we thought that it would be a great idea to have people who have been to SPNHC 2 or 3 times, maybe more, to volunteer to be those mentors, and then the new people could be the mentees, and over time, eventually they could become the mentors as well. So what we did to start trying to accomplish this is I sent out some registration suggestions for this year. Of course, this meeting didn't happen, but my suggestions for registration were to add questions like, are you new to SPNHC? Is this your first meeting? Would you like to be paired with a mentor? Would you like to be a mentor? So say I was signing up, I could say, yes, I'll go ahead and be a mentor. Or if this was my first time, I might indicate that I would like to have one. And attached to that, link to that, we suggested that they have like a little FAQ button where they could say, what's a mentor? Or what's expected of me if I become a mentor? And that way everyone would know exactly what they're getting into. I actually never registered for SPNHC this year, so I don't know if those questions were added or not, but that was the idea.
So Carrie, what are you kind of hoping that we can attempt to accomplish in the next year before our conference in San Francisco?
So we need to reach out to the local organizing committee for San Francisco and see if they can go ahead and add these questions to their registration.
I need to interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
But next year's meeting is not going to be in San Francisco.
Okay, good to know.
There's talk about doing it in Florida with the American Institute for Conservation, but it's still in the works. Sorry.
Still up in the air. All right, thanks for that update.
Well, whoever the LOC will be, or whoever is going to be in charge of registration, we need to reach out to them as soon as we know who those people are, so that as they're working on registration, they have these questions in hand, and we have an FAQ document already prepared. I can actually link both of these things if you guys want. We have that prepared, so we could go ahead and send that to them too if they wanted to link the questions, or even just provide a link to the FAQ document itself. And then, you know, once we have this done once, we'll see how it works and we can adjust from there.
So my mic's working now.
Great.
Yay! That's a huge achievement for me, actually. One of the things that we sort of had feedback in the committee ourselves about, as far as Chicago went, was this communication, the linking, what Carrie mentioned, was an important goal for us, but also at the conference itself as identifying both new or first-time visitors, or people who are seeking advice, conversation with people who are the more seasoned. And so somewhere in this universe is a packet of tags that can get attached to ID label, and they will say various things, the normal ones from any conference, like speaker or committee or executive board or whatever, and then others that will say first something like newbie, or something probably more politically correct than that. And so that's also part of what we want to work on, and make sure that those things happen, and we have to work with whichever local organizing committee it's going to be.
Jeff, this is Elise. I took over, I have those here with me in my office, and I took that responsibility over, and I have my notes from last year as to which badges we wanted to add, and we had some discussion after the meeting. So I have all that set aside to order new ribbons for the meeting next year.
Well, good, they're already in Florida.
All right, Carrie, anything else you want to add on to mentorship at this point?
Not at this point. I linked both of the documents, so if anybody has ideas for related questions we should ask on registration, or anything that should be added to that FAQ document, definitely feel free to edit it and help us out. But that's all I have right now. I don't know if, I know Mariana was kind of in this conversation. I don't know if she has anything to add.
No, just that the questions were asked during the registration, and I saw someone in the chat was happy about that because they are new to the organization. So that's great. Just keep on improving on what we're asking and how we are just serving the community.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mariana. I never knew if they were added or not, so I'm really happy to hear that they were.
All right, next up is the wiki page that we do have. I am linking the link to the website in the chat for everybody if you ever want to check it out. So this is something that we've been kind of working on, trying to revamp a little bit to provide a little bit more information. What you see once you go there is going to be information that we kind of dropped in there based off of the last meeting, but clearly it needs to be flushed out even more. This is really going to be based off of what the community would like to see there. So inside of that brain dump Google Doc if you have anything that you would like to see, questions that you would like to have answered, ideas, recommendations, please add that there. There's only so much that, you know, the couple of us who are kind of running the committee are able to come up with. So your feedback is greatly improved. And I actually open up the floor right now if anybody wants to kind of talk about what they would like to see out of that.
You can either unmute yourselves, raise your hand, however you want to communicate. And if you decide to raise your hand and your name gets called, just please unmute yourself.
Well, if I might give a little bit of background history, a little bit. One of our discussions was, what do we do at conferences, at the SPNHC conferences? And obviously the travel grants and the more general mentorship were part of that. And then Wikipage, which could serve as a resource, but is there a way, or should we be thinking about, now that we're all visiting in this medium, is there something that we can put on future plans to somehow or other link up people who need mentoring with mentors in a digital format? And maybe we can do that through Wiki.
Yeah, hey Jeff, this is Haley. I was also thinking about that and just reading kind of what this committee is about, like continuing educational opportunities. I think this would be a really good time to create like a list of webinars and things that people are looking for. I know sometimes there are so many that it gets a little overwhelming, but if they pertain to SPNHC, that could be really a useful resource for emerging professionals right now and other people in the field. So just a thought.
Carrie, there's a question in here, and maybe you might be the best one to answer it. Have there been further discussions on possible training for mentors? Basic info a mentor should know before working with a mentee.
I think that would be a really good idea. We certainly have barely taken the mentorship idea past the idea stage at this point. So maybe now that we have another year before it'll actually be implemented at a SPNHC conference, maybe this is the time that we can take a step back and figure out everything we actually need these mentors to do, including attending a training, which could certainly be a Zoom training or something, since all of SPNHC knows how to do this now. So I think it would be a good idea to, I see that Randy has been involved with the mentorship program. Maybe those of us who are interested in mentorship and Randy could get together and have a meeting sometime and discuss like the next steps we need to take in addition to just getting the questions on the registration page.
I'd love to do that. I've been trying to get it. I've been talking about it in executive committee for a while, so it's good.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that, Randy. So I think it'd be great. I see you have a question asking if the ASIH mentors receive training.
No, actually they don't, which is interesting. So there's basically, it's kind of just a rough sketch where it's kind of like, you know, we're looking for people to mentor people, and then they give you some suggestions about what you should do with your mentee. But I agree. I think it could benefit from like at least a short training session, because a lot of times what happens is some mentees get a lot out of it and some get almost nothing out of it, you know, so just depending on who they got.
I like Jess's point too. She said that she has volunteered a lot and she gets paired with someone who is in a completely different field. So that might be something that we look at, ask an additional question, like what kind of collections do you work with, and try to pair people who have similar experiences.
If I can interject right here, that's actually, I can't remember which group it was. It was probably emerging professionals for the breakout idea. That's actually why I specifically did paleo and geology. Was it would be hard for me to talk to somebody in a modern collection if they have specific questions about conservation in a modern collection. If they're fossil people, got you.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely having it topic specific for people who are willing to be mentors, because I know I can't help everybody. I'm still trying to learn from conservators about things because I don't know everything. So yeah,
So we do have the model. It's just written down. It's the set of guidelines that we put out to people who want to mentor for the travel grant program. So we have a list of expectations that we share with those folks. It's about 2 pages long, unless it got pared down. But that can form the basis, the outline for a more general mentorship. And we do take care to try to pair disciplines. Because yeah, if I was talking to somebody in a discipline that I wasn't really familiar with, it'd be difficult.
But on the other side of the coin, though, there are a lot of cross-disciplinary, cross-collections things that you can still help with, like meeting, you know, people from certain institutions, things like that. And I think, you know, you're not going to match everybody one-to-one every time. So it does help to just have some general, you know, skills to introduce people to people.
One other thing that we do in the travel grant is try to get feedback both from the mentees and the mentors. So we should have some written record from the past on what works, what doesn't. We can incorporate that into any kind of thing that we're building now.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think having some sort of like Zoom-based training, I try to identify people and then maybe talking about that document that already exists during that training might be a good approach. Of course, we're gonna have to be really organized for that because we'll have to identify our mentors pretty far ahead of time. But we can try it.
So I'm just scrolling back here and looking at Shelly's question, Shelly James. Are there tricks and techniques type videos that could be made and shared, particularly from late career due to retiring professionals? And I guess it's more into kind of what the wiki is providing in terms of educational based activities. And what does everybody think about this thought of seeing if we can do like 5-minute clips on like the YouTube channel, or maybe work with social media to try and post, you know, maybe not everything is best for a white page and writing it down, but we could have somebody film a quick little 5-minute, this is how you repair paper, or this is kind of an overview of what we're doing at such and such institution. What is people's thoughts on that? Christina?
I just given your example of how to repair paper, I think conservation was already thinking about doing that. So if it's going to be a topic-based video, committees that already cover those topics should be addressed.
Yeah.
As far as, I don't know if they're going to care like who makes it versus the content of it, but if it's going to cross into other areas. I think videos, given this time, a lot of other groups are thinking about how-tos, since workshops aren't an option at the moment. But definitely helpful to have videos like that. I know I would love to know how to mount plant specimens, and I don't even work in herbaria. I'm just curious. So
There's a couple conversations in the chat that, because there's a lot happening right now. I just wanted to add, hi everybody, I'm Adenia from the University of Florida for International History, IDIC Bio, about training. So like for the training, going back to the training part, ally skill training. So you want to make sure we're not, when we pair people with mentors, avoid any possibilities of anything we would regret. So I think ally training would be something good to have in there. I put that in the chat and somebody said it was a good idea as well. And then there's some conversations about other types of training in the chat as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Dania. So we have about like 5 minutes left. Anybody else have any other stuff that they would like to add?
From an IDIG bio perspective, this is Deb Paul. I'd like to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm late. Definitely have to be in too many meetings today all at once. I would like to add an opportunity to ask for input from people on the skills needs that we see. How are collections management jobs changing? And of course, from an IDIG bio point of view, we're interested in digitization, but it overlaps with I have to get the specimens prepared, right, before we take a picture of them, or in order to repair them after somebody took a picture of them, or whatever. So it links into other realms of the collections. So from a professional development standpoint, all these resources y'all are talking about creating, looping IDIG bio in where appropriate to be part of the conversation when digitization is involved would be great.
Thanks, Deb. Christina?
does Deb, does IDIG Bio have any I don't know the right word to use, not regulations, but advice on digital conservation of the media that we are producing? Because I know at past institutions I've worked at, being so early on in my career, I was quite ignorant about what my options were, and the IT staff were not available at those institutions to provide support because they didn't exist. Now I'm at a much bigger institution that actually has IT support, so they handle everything. I don't have to. But smaller institutions, having started at a small one, their needs, they just don't know how to handle the digital conservation. Are there guidelines for how to conserve and preserve your digital data long term?
I would say there's no consensus guidance. There are talks by different people. There are resources we would point you to, or people we would point you to, and certainly the Small Collections Network, for example. We would point you towards libraries and information science people in your neighborhood to help you navigate that conversation. In a nutshell, I don't want to take more time. And that's a huge topic, right, Christina, for lots of people.
And I'm just worried about people who were like me, who went straight into a digitization program as your first real big girl or big boy job or whatever. And you are going in there being like, yeah, I have a basis, but like I know how to take photos, I understand the paleontology, or I know the subject matter. But long term, all of these grants are wanting sustainability, but you don't know the sustainability because you don't also have the IT training. And when your own institution doesn't have the infrastructure, what can you do to hopefully get these things to preserve? I just worry about any emerging professionals who were like me going straight in and you were the main person for it, but you didn't necessarily have the full skill set.
Sounds like a nice opportunity for a webinar, I hear. And people like you sharing your experience about what you just shared, and other people sharing their experience and talking about what you could do as a community. I would liaison with the Small Collections they are like you, that same perspective of at a bigger institution, all of a sudden there's this whole network there to help me with these decisions and figure out what to do. But when I'm at a small one, it's much different. Would be helpful, it sounds like.
It wasn't even until my second museum that I worked at that I actually started to work with the library and learn about digital archiving and how the librarians handle that, because there was a digital curation librarian at the university that was just hired. So it took me 3.5 years to actually ask a librarian how to do anything. So if these early emerging professionals can start asking those questions, like asking those people earlier than I did, they may prepare themselves career-wise more strongly than I did.
And please, if you're digitizing and you want an input or you need some help, do contact us at iDigBio. We can, if we don't know the answer, we usually have some ideas of who we can point you toward to help.
So just one little thing about professional, we're just about out of time. For those of you who are on the committee or would like to be working with the committee, you can get your names to Nick or myself. And because now we know how to do this Zoom stuff, perhaps we can have meetings more often through the year and keep on top of this. And that's how we're gonna thank you for all of you who participated, for your ideas. Yes, this mentorship thing isn't just about the conference. It's got to be a year-round thing. So there was a question about that. But those members of the committee who would like to get together, Nick and I can find some time where everyone can meet, and we'll move forward with this new work method. Nick?
All right, no, that's all I have. I just linked that document in case anybody came to things a little bit late. But otherwise, put your name, email address, and affiliation, and we'll talk with you soon. You guys have 2 minutes for a bathroom or a coffee break before the next meeting starts, I guess.